Finding inspiration during dark times. How do you cope with experiences of failure or rejection? In order to answer this question, it is important to gain knowledge about the two most fundamental realities of life. Amongst many fundamental realities out there, these two are worth knowing. And with very little introspection and empirical verification, it is easy to see that, number one, life is always changing, and number two, adversity, pain, suffering are inevitable. No matter how consistent you may be with your daily routine, you soon realize that circumstances and our surroundings are constantly shifting and are beyond our control. Thus, we come to realize that life is ever changing. And there is not a single human in this world that can boldly claim that there was no problem or pain one ever dealt with in one's life. We all experience this. The condition of just being born a human leaves us with this precondition of facing some sort of adversity, pain, or suffering. Yes, people may experience these to varying degrees, yet it is experienced by all. None are immune. Once we realize these two realities, we can look into some examples of people from whom we can gain great levels of inspiration. Viktor Frankl, 1905 to 1997. Viktor Frankl was an Austrian neurologist and psychiatrist and a Holocaust survivor who lost his family in Auschwitz, one of the deadliest concentration camps built during Hitler's Third Reich. After the war, he immigrated to the US and founded a groundbreaking therapy known as logotherapy and wrote a phenomenal book called Man's Search for Meaning that positively impacted the lives of millions of people across the globe who face adversity and severe levels of trauma. Viktor Frankl's famous and liberating quote states, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." Despite the adversity that Viktor Frankl faced, he continued on and created something beautiful, whose legacy positively helps transform many people across the globe even after his death. Nelson Mandela, 1918 to 2013. Nelson Mandela was the first black president of South Africa. He served 26 years in prison for his anti-apartheid resistances before he was elected by majority in the democratic elections to lead the country. He was a revolutionary and advocated for peace, forgiveness, and equality all his life. Despite the adversity that Nelson Mandela faced, he continued on and chose to advocate for peace, forgiveness, and love amongst humanity, whose legacy too positively helps transform many people across the globe, even after his death. Malala Yousafzai, 1997 to current. Malala, born in a little town in Pakistan, advocated for basic education for all girls in her village, and used to write a blog for BBC anonymously, only when she was around 10 years old. Her blog was so impactful that New York Times made a documentary on it. When she was 15, she was shot in the brain by a Taliban terrorist due to her bold advocacy work. Luckily, surviving the surgery and despite this adversity, now she lives in the UK and continues to be a staunch advocate for the rights of women's education. She is also the youngest Nobel Peace Prize winner, only to win the prize at the age of 17. The left side of her face is still paralyzed due to the injuries she sustained, but she continues to lead her life with her shoulders held high, doing advocacy work for women's education rights. J.K. Rowling, 1965 to current. J.K. Rowling, a British novelist who created the Harry Potter series. Her imagination and penmanship revolutionized the world, as well as the later made world-famous Harry Potter movies. Harry Potter was the best-selling children's book series in history. She achieved the status of the first female billionaire author. Before her heydays, she was divorced, faced domestic abuse, was a single mother, and completely bankrupt. She also suffered from depression and contemplated suicide. Her first book, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, believe it or not, was rejected 12 publishing houses before its acceptance. Ladies and gentlemen, 12 publishing houses before its acceptance. Her story is one of rags to riches. Barry Cunningham was the man who decided to take a gamble on J.K. Rowling after he and his daughter became enchanted by this story. Despite J.K. Rowling's many adversities and 12 despairing rejections, J.K. Rowling outshined and accomplished what no other female author has been able to do until this day. Last but not the least, I would like to share the story of Rumi, 1207 to 1273. Muhammad Rumi was a 13th century Persian poet, scholar, and Sufi mystic. His poetry traversed boundaries and transformed the world. He was renounced as the most popular and best-selling poet in the US, and well known across the world. It is said that Rumi was in love with his mentor and teacher Shams of Tabriz, an ascetic known to renounce all worldly pleasures. Rumi's students became so jealous of this relationship that they are known to have killed Shams. Rumi was so heartbroken that it was during this period of life that he produced the most beautiful poetry humankind has ever seen. Rumi used sadness and adversity to create something beautiful in his life. While reciting his poem, he turned round and round, which forms the basis of the whirling dervishes in Sufism. One of Rumi's famous quotes among many states, "When we are dead, seek not our tomb in the earth, but find it in the hearts of men." Despite the deep pain that Rumi experienced due to the loss of a loved one, from sadness and chaos, Rumi produced pearls of beauty, wisdom, and knowledge through his words and poetry. This takes us to a well-known quote stated by none other than Friedrich Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche was a 19th century German philosopher, and this quote comes from his famous book, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, and helps put into perspective all the prior stories that I've just shared with you until now. You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star. You can pause this video now and ask yourselves these two questions. What does this quote mean? What does it mean to you? Chaos, also known as disorderliness, confusion, pain, adversity, suffering, all serve as prerequisites for growth and evolution. It is almost as though our growth depends on chaos as a factor that leads us to give rise to our truest and highest potential. Let's introduce ourselves to the concept of the Access Mundi. Access Mundi is a Latin word which means world access, and can be represented by this image, the tree of life, also known as the tree of immortality or the cosmic tree, is one symbolic mythological image of the Access Mundi. It originated from mystical and shamanic practices and can be seen across world traditions. It is a symbolic representation of spiritual unity, connecting the heavens to the underworld, and teaching us a metaphorical lesson that, in order to reach the heavens, which represents everything good, one needs to descend into the underworld, the chaos, everything bad, to truly be reborn. Just as deeper the roots of a tree go, the higher the branches of the tree grow. This is analogous to the hero's myth put forth by the Joseph Campbell, and also succinctly articulated by Carl Jung, a Swiss psychoanalyst during the 1900s, who clearly stated that no tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. So how does one find inspiration during dark times? When you experience failure or rejection? The answer lies here within. In order to face adversity, you need to ask the most basic fundamental questions, which help seek answers that enable you to make sense of life. When life makes sense, you find meaning, and meaning brings value to living. Thus, you learn adjustment, the ability to cope with the ups and downs of reality and to be intrinsically grateful for both. Questions that help you seek meaning out of the most adverse situations entail asking, what is the situation trying to teach me? Or what is trying to emerge in my life through these experiences? Knowing that failure and rejection are part of the inevitable problems of an ever-changing life helps you accept it with gratitude and preparedness. It shall all come to pass, says the Bible. Just as good times pass, bad times pass too, because life is ever-changing. With this hope, knowledge, and gratitude, one can find grit and courage to learn positive lessons from adversity and keep moving forward. Thank you for being a great audience. Hope you find this video helpful. Thank you.